Welcome to the HOA Real Talk podcast. Real Talk is for homeowners and board members of homeowners associations. Most HOA podcasts are from attorneys or property managers. Real Talk is by a homeowner and board member and focuses on helping homeowners navigate living in a deed-restricted community. It also helps board members understand and become better at their role as a volunteer and leader of the community. The HOA Real Talk Show is brought to you by Excellence in Action Podcasting. So let's be about it and get this show started. Please welcome the host of Real Talk, Mike Sancho.
Thank you, Grace, and welcome back to HOA Real Talk. If you're a longtime listener, thank you for the support. And if it's your first time listening or viewing, thank you for joining us. And I hope you get to come back and join us for future episodes. Today, we're going to talk about you, the homeowner, and how I have 5 simple tips to help you live a good, vibrant life in your community if it is driven and run by a homeowners association. These 5 tips are basic tips to living in a deed-restricted or HOA-run community. And I do this for one simple reason. You know what it is, to keep your hood looking good and your property values high. That's why I do this. So this is all about you, the homeowner, in this episode. So let's be about it and jump right in, and let me start with sharing our 5 simple tips to effectively live in an association or community that is run by an HOA. So here we go. Tip number 1. If you haven't done so already, read the documents, read the rules and regulations, read the bylaws of your homeowners association. Now, if you've listened to my podcast last year, I talked briefly about my experience in receiving the very first violation, and I had no idea what was going on because what? I didn't read the rules and regulations, and thankfully my wife reminded me of that. And then I read them and I was like, oh wow, the light bulb went off, right? You have to understand a couple of things about living in an association-run community. Number 1, there are governing documents. Your governing documents include the bylaws of the association and rules and regulations, things you can and cannot do. But on a simple basis, living in a homeowners-run association means that you just can't do what you want to do. There are basic rules that you have to follow. Most HOAs, it's simply this. On the outside of your house, you have to seek permission to get things done, and you have to do them within the rules as defined. And I'll give you an example of what it looks like, right? So in California, I know there are some communities in California where the HOA says you cannot leave your garage door open. That's right, you cannot leave your garage door open. You exit the garage, you enter the garage, you close the door. Here, where I live in South Florida, my community, leave your door open 24 hours a day, we don't care. We don't have that rule. So you have to learn the rules and regulations to your community. Your governing documents, your bylaws, really dictates on when elections happen, how many board members you're going to have in your community, so on and so forth. The bylaws really tells the board on how they are to function on behalf of the homeowners in the community. Also, when you look at your rules and regulations, it will also tell you what happens if you violate a rule or a regulation. For example, in my community, if you park on the streets overnight, you may get booted. We do not want on-street parking past midnight. Things of that nature. So you have to read the rules and regulations. Don't get upset when you receive a violation notice and then you're like, oh my goodness, and you didn't read the rules and regulations. And I'll share this story with you. I recently, in doing my research for my show, I came across a video from a couple of years ago where, if you were paying attention to current events in Puerto Rico, my homeland, where my family is originally from, we were recalling the governor. There were some issues and we voted and recalled the governor of Puerto Rico. Well, there was a veteran, a U.S. veteran who lived in mid-Florida, who also is from Puerto Rico, and in solidarity and support of his island, he hung the Puerto Rican flag outside of his house. Now, I was like, yeah, mi patria, mi gente, my people, my patriots. Awesome, you hung our flag out there in solidarity. And then the HOA part of me kicked in and said, yo, dude, you can't complain if you didn't read the rules and regulations. The rules and regulations were there before we recalled the governor, right? So you got to know the rules and regulations. And unfortunately, he is in the wrong. While I respect and appreciate him supporting our people, he was still wrong. So read your rules and regulations before you go do something. All right? It's that simple. You got to know what you're being held to account, right? You have to know what that is, right? You're held to a standard. And let me be clear on this final point on rules and regulations. We have rules and regulations so everyone can be treated equally. Rules and regulations are just for that, so we can treat everyone equally to do what? Keep the hood looking good and our property values high. So always remember that. Tip number 2 is be a good neighbor. If you stand in front of my house and look at my house, you look to my right. My neighbor's on the right side of my house, awesome couple. Got 2 teenage daughters, got 2 dogs, beautiful people, great people. You know what? I have no issues with them. I know them. We work together. We say we're cordial. We're friendly. I love living next to them because when I'm out of town, they take care of my house. When they're out of town, I take care of their house, right? Simple things like we'll pull the garbage cans in for each other. If you look to my neighbor on my left, another great couple. Got a young 9-year-old daughter, a new baby boy that was just born. Great couple. Again, we look out for each other. Recently, his garage door was open after I walked my dog at 10 o'clock at night. I sent him a text, hey man, your garage door is open, because it's unusual. Great neighbor. Across the street, the 2 homes across the street, 80-year-old guy serves on the board with me, got me to run for the board. Great neighbor, I check in on him. He needs something, he calls me. We help each other out. In the house next to his, same thing. Couple with 2 teenage sons. Incredible people. We do Super Bowl parties together. You name it. I know everyone kind of around the vicinity of my house. We are good neighbors. And you know what we do? So we have a rule in our HOA that you cannot have a dirty roof, right? We have Spanish roofing tiles. So if they get dirty, they turn black. Well, we partner together. We call a power washing company and we say, hey, how much of a discount would you give us if we did 5 homes together instead of 1? See, we work together as neighbors. Also, being neighborly means this. If you see that your neighbor is violating one of the rules, instead of being a snitch, before you go and tell the property manager or the association, hey, Mike over there, he's leaving the garbage cans out at night and he's not supposed to. Say, hey, Mike, everything okay? I noticed you've been leaving the garbage cans out at night. Can I help you with something? Do you need me to bring him in? Or are you getting, late from work? Whatever. Be a good neighbor, but speak to your neighbor first, right? And if your neighbor's violating some of the rules and regulations, do not assume that he, she, or they have not received a notice from the association that they're in violation. If I receive a notice from the HOA, I'm not going to go tell any of my neighbors, hey man, I've been messing up and I got a violation notice. No. So don't assume that they didn't get a notice, right? Be neighborly. And the last thing I will say this about being a good neighbor is pick up your dog shit. I said it. Pick up your dog shit. So if you're like me and you have a dog and you walk your dog and your dog takes a dump, pick the dog shit up and throw it away properly, right? Don't leave dog shit in your neighborhood, in your community, on your neighbor's property, right? Pick your shit up. Because you know what that does? That helps keep the hood looking good, people, right? Now, tip number 3 is get out and enjoy all the amenities that your community has to offer. Let me say it again. Get out and enjoy all the amenities your community has to offer. You're paying money on a monthly, quarterly, yearly basis to maintain the community, the common areas. Use them. Get out and enjoy. If there's an event that's taking place in your community, go to the event. Be part of the community. That's what makes communities tighter. That's what makes all of us want to live in the community in harmony and peacefully, right? So you have amenities, use the amenities. Get out there, take advantage of all the community has to offer, and meet your fellow community members. Meet your fellow neighbors on the other side of the clubhouse from you. Meet the neighbors who live 2 blocks down from you, right? Get out, walk, enjoy your community, all right? So now let's move on to tip number 4. Need you to actively participate in your homeowners association. What does that mean? Do not sit back and rely to get your information from Facebook, right? Listen, I love social media, right? We have a homeowners run Facebook page for our community. I do not go on it as a board member. I refuse to go on it. The day I'm no longer on the board, when I choose not to be on the board or association members vote me out, I'm not going to go on Facebook. Right? There's great things on social media. Hey, I use social media for my consulting company, for this podcast, you name it, I use social media. I'm big on social media. But unfortunately, what happens is that people go on social media and complain about the homeowners association. They don't have all the facts. They share second, third, fourth, 100th hand information. Right? They don't say everything, or they conveniently leave out stuff that will put things into context. Remember the game telephone when you were a kid? We started at this side. I told the secret. It went all the way down to the end. And when it got to the other side, it was a completely different story, right? So, participate in your community. Go and attend an HOA board meeting. See how the board meeting is run. A lot of HOAs now are doing a hybrid system where in person and they're broadcasting live via Zoom or Google Meets or Microsoft Teams. They're broadcasting their board meetings live. Participate. And if you can, volunteer for a committee. Be part of the solution. Okay? But you got to be active to know what's going on in your community and not rely on getting second-hand or third-hand information. Right? It's that simple. So become active in your community. I'm not asking you to be like me and be a volunteer, be available, serve on the board if that's not your thing. But you can go and attend the board meeting, sit in the back, be quiet, just see what's going on. And if they have one of those hybrid board meetings, you know what? You don't feel comfortable going there in person? Go online. Nobody will see you. Turn your camera off. You're good to go. But we want you to be active. And then the last tip I have for you is communication. You have to communicate. Our community, we have an online portal that you sign up for. You can do everything there. You can make requests to the architectural review board. You can pay your HOA dues on that portal. Everything we need to do on the portal. If I need to have irrigation fixed, I do it through the portal. I've also signed up for emails. So the association sends a newsletter out. I get an email. Updates, I get an email. So communicate. And if your association has one of those communication tools, sign up for it. Take advantage of it. Use it. Right? I'm going to end with talking about how you can resolve issues, but I want to recap the 5 tips, right? Number 1, read your governing documents and your rules and regulations. It starts there. You have to understand what you're being held to account for. If you don't know the rules and regulations and something happens, you're in the wrong to start. Doesn't mean you're not correct in the resolution. It just means to begin with you were wrong for not understanding what you were being held account to. So read your rules, regulations, and your governing documents. Number 2 is be a good neighbor. Be neighborly. Get to know your neighbors. Be out there and be a good neighbor. Right? Help each other out. Know your neighbors. Know their names. All right? Number 3 is actively take advantage of everything your community has to offer. Use the amenities, go to the events, but be a participant in the community and take advantage of everything your community offers. And the next tip after that was what? Be active, right? Volunteer, attend meetings, so on and so forth, right? Like go to your HOA board meeting. Go to the meeting online if it's there, right? Be active. You have time to volunteer, but we want you to be active. And the 5th tip and final tip we had on the 5 basics was what? Communication, right? Sign up for the free communication, sign up for the portals, but be active in communicating with your homeowners association. Now, it's inherent that when you live in a homeowners driven association, right? You live in a community that's run by a homeowners association. violations will take place. Somebody violates the rules and regulations, and a violation will take place. So I want to share a tip with you on how you can understand why you're being violated and how to remedy the situation. Or in some cases, if your community has an architectural review board that you put in an application to make a change on the exterior of your home and it's denied, I'm going to give you information on how you can successfully go about trying to get approval or successfully challenge what's going on if you feel you're in the wrong. First and foremost, you receive a violation notice. You're like, damn, what is this about? You go to your property manager or your association coordinator, whatever you call it, and you say, hey, I got this notice. First tip, do not walk in there whining. Do not walk in there crazy person. Do not walk in there being a Karen or Ken. Walk in there and say, hey, I received this violation notice, or I was denied my request. Please help me understand why. I'm a little confused as to why, because the rules and regulations say this, and I read it to mean this. So why am I being denied, or why am I receiving this violation notice, right? You're going to walk in there, you first seek to understand, then be understood. Let me repeat that. Walk in to seek to understand what's going on and understand the rules and the decision, and then seek to be understood, right? Seek to understand, then seek to be understood, right? You go in there and you will resolve most things. Also, if you're going in, right, and you really believe you are in the right, here's a tip. Stand out in front of your house, look at your house, and go to the neighbor on the right side of your house, then go to the neighbor on the left side of your house, and go to the neighbor directly across the street from you. And ask them if you're correct, and if those three people agree with you, chances are you're probably right. But if one of them says, I don't know, chances are you're wrong. Because if you can't get them three to agree, then you're not going to get the association to agree. And it all comes down to reading the rules and regulations, understanding them, and then seek to understand, then seek to be understood. And lastly, this I can't say this enough. If you are not an attorney, let me repeat, if you are not an attorney, stop going to your state statutes in regards to homeowners association and trying to understand and read state statutes. That's why they are attorneys. There's attorney language in there. Attorney speak. It's a whole different language. I'm astounded by homeowners who go and think they know how to read and interpret a state statute. Let me share this with you. Attorneys read the state statutes and they even get it wrong. Okay? So understand that, right? Go in there, chill out, go in there, try to resolve it, and at the end of the day, you may not be successful. But that's okay. It all starts with what? Read your rules and regulations. All right? We do all this, and rules are there, the regulations are there, the bylaws are there. Everything is there to do what? Keep the hood looking good and property values high. I hope these 5 simple tips to living in an HOA as a homeowner will help you become better acclimated to your community, help you understand what role you play in the community being a vibrant one. Hopefully this helps and it can get you better situated. Well, folks, until the next time, be safe and be well, my friends.
The views and discussions heard on this podcast are the opinions of the host and guests and are not to be taken as legal advice. You do not go on social media for your legal advice, so do not come to HOA Real Talk either. However, if you do go on social media for legal advice, all I can say is you're screwed.